Good day to you. This is Anagalactic in the middle of the night here. It's in between Thursday and the prior day. Today I'd just like to read from a curious book that has had several translations. As an American, I find it difficult to pronounce Chinese, but from what I've been given to understand, that is pronounced Yi Jing. It's about as close as I can come. This book is quite old, and this is called the Wilhelm translation. Wilhelm was a German who studied this book. This is from the Bollingen Series. This is from the middle of this book. About the middle is page 280, and you may not be able to see that, but that says the Great Treatise, Chuan, the Great Commentary. This is by the authors of the book. It's a very interesting study to find out who wrote this. It's more than one person, and it covered a period of time. Highly respected in Chinese culture, but it's come to be respected around the world. I've known about this book since I was about 14, and I used to use the yarrow sticks and do the whole divination. On the streets of China, I understand they use coins because it's faster, but it's a different probability distribution on gaining the 6 lines to make what are called 2 gua. And these gua are basically the representation of the interactions on heaven and earth. But rather than hear me explain it, let's hear what the Ta Chuan, the Great Treatise or Great Commentary, has to say about itself. This is interspersed with Wilhelm's commentary, which of course is quite helpful. But then you have to trust the man who is making the commentary. I've had 3 copies of this book in my lifetime. I wore out one, and one of my friends borrowed it and really messed it up. He wrote all over it. I didn't really ask him to do that, but that's what he did. Finally, that book fell apart. Confucius is said to have worn out the equivalent of binding on his I Ching more than once. The Changes in the Universe and in the Book of Changes. That's the title. Heaven is high, the earth is low. Thus the creative and the receptive are determined. In correspondence with this difference between low and high, inferior and superior places are established. Movement and rest have their definite laws. According to these, firm and yielding lines are differentiated. Events follow definite trends, each according to its nature. Things are distinguished from one another in definite classes. In this way, good fortune and misfortune come about. In the heavens, phenomena take form. On earth, shapes take form. In this way, change and transformation become manifest. We now switch to Wilhelm's commentary. In the Book of Changes, a distinction is made between 3 kinds of change: non-change, cyclic change, and sequent change. In German, by the way, this is in a footnote, umwandeln, verwandeln. I don't see the third one. Wilhelm defines umwandeln as meaning in this connection recurrent change, and verwandeln as meaning change in which there is no return to the starting point. These words, cyclic and sequent, are therefore introduced here in anticipation of these definitions as the types of change alluded to would not otherwise be intelligible. So non-change, I think, is left out of these translations back into German, so you know what Wilhelm was thinking in German, translating Chinese to make it understandable in English. Right. Non-change is in the background, as it were, against which change is made possible. For in regard to any change, there must be some fixed point to which the change can be referred. Otherwise, there can be no definite order, and everything is dissolved in chaotic movement. This point of reference must be established, and this always requires a choice and a decision. It makes possible a system of coordinates into which everything else can be fitted. Consequently, at the beginning of the world, as at the beginning of thought, there is the decision, the fixing of a point of reference. Theoretically, any point of reference is possible, but experience teaches that at the dawn of consciousness one stands already enclosed within definite, prepotent systems of relationships. The problem then is to choose one's point of reference so that it coincides with a point of reference for cosmic events. For only then can the world created by one's decision escape being dashed to pieces against prepotent systems of relationships with which it would otherwise come into conflict. Obviously, the premise for such a decision is the belief that in the last analysis the world is a system of homogeneous relationships, that it is a cosmos, not a chaos. This belief is the foundation of Chinese philosophy, as of all philosophy. The ultimate frame of reference for all that changes is the non-changing. The Book of Changes takes as the foundation for the system of relationships the distinction between heaven and earth. There is heaven, the upper world of light, which, though incorporeal, firmly regulates and determines everything that happens, and over against heaven there is the earth, the lower, dark world, corporeal, and dependent in its movements upon the phenomena of heaven. With this differentiation of above and below, there is posited in one way or another a difference in value, so that the one principle, heaven, is the more exalted and honored, while the other, earth, is regarded as lesser and lower. These two cardinal principles of all existence are then symbolized in the two fundamental hexagrams of the Book of Changes, the creative and the receptive. In the last analysis, this cannot be called a dualism. The two principles are united by a relation based on homogeneity. They do not combat, but complement each other. The difference in level creates a potential, as it were, by virtue of which movement and living expression of energy become possible. This association of high and low with value differentiations leads to the differentiation of superior and inferior. This is expressed symbolically in the hexagrams of the Book of Changes, which are considered to have high and low, superior and inferior places. Each hexagram consists of 6 places, of which the odd-numbered ones are superior and the even-numbered ones inferior. There is another difference bound up with this one. In the heavens, constant movement and change prevail. On earth, fixed and apparently lasting conditions are to be observed. On closer scrutiny, this is only delusion. In the philosophy of the Book of Changes, nothing is regarded as being absolutely at rest. Rest is merely an intermediate state of movement, or latent movement. However, there are points at which the movement becomes visible. This is symbolized by the fact that the hexagrams are built up of both firm and yielding lines. The firm, the strong, is designated as the principle of movement, the yielding as the principle of rest. The firm is represented by an undivided line corresponding with the light principle, the yielding by a divided line that corresponds with the dark principle. The fact that the character of the line, firm or yielding, combines with the character of the place, superior and inferior, results in a great multiplicity of possible situations. This serves to symbolize a third nexus of events in the world. There are conditions of equilibrium, in which a certain harmony prevails, and conditions of disturbed equilibrium, in which confusion prevails. The reason is that there is a system of order pervading the entire world. When, in accordance with this order, each thing is in its appropriate place, harmony is established, such a tendency toward order can be observed in nature. The places attract related elements, as it were, so that harmony may come about. However, a parallel tendency is also at work. Not only are things determined by their tendency toward order, they move also by virtue of forces imparted to them, so to speak, mechanically, from the outside. Hence it is not possible for equilibrium to be attained under all circumstances, for deviations may occur, bringing with them confusion and disorder. In the sphere of human affairs, the condition of harmony assures good fortune, that of disharmony predicates misfortune. These complexes of occurrences can be represented by the combinations of lines and places, as pointed out above. Another law is to be noted. Owing to changes of the sun, moon, and stars, phenomena take form in the heavens. These phenomena obey definite laws. Bound up with them, shapes come into being on earth, in accordance with identical laws. Therefore, the processes on earth, blossom and fruit, growth and decay, can be calculated if we know the laws of time. If we know the laws of change, we can pre-calculate in regard to it, and freedom of action thereupon becomes possible. Changes are the imperceptible tendencies to divergence that, when they have reached a certain point, become visible and bring about transformations. These are the immutable laws under which, according to Chinese thought, changes are consummated. It is the purpose of the Book of Changes to demonstrate these laws by means of the laws of change operating in the respective hexagrams. Once we succeed in completely reproducing these laws, we acquire a comprehensive view of events. We can understand past and future equally well and bring this knowledge to bear in our actions. This is from the Chinese now. Therefore, the 8 trigrams succeed one another by turns as the firm and the yielding displace each other. And now, Wilhelm's commentary continues. Here cyclic change is explained. It is a rotation of phenomena, each succeeding the other until the starting point is reached again. Examples are furnished by the course of the day and year, and by the phenomena that occur in the organic world during these cycles. Cyclic change, then, is recurrent change in the organic world, whereas sequent change means the progressive, non-recurrent change of phenomena produced by causality. The firm and the yielding displace each other within the 8 trigrams. Thus the firm is transformed, melts as it were, and becomes the yielding. The yielding changes, coalesces as it were, and becomes the firm. In this way, the 8 trigrams change from one into another in turn, and the regular alternation of phenomena within the year takes its course. But this is the case in all cycles, the life cycle included. What we know as day and night, summer and winter, this in the life cycle is life and death. To make more intelligible the nature of cyclic change and the alternations of the trigrams produced by it, their sequence in the primal arrangement, that's a formal term, is shown once again in Figure 5. Here's Figure 5. There you see, those are the 8 trigrams. There are 2 directions of movement, the one rightward ascending and the other backward descending. The former starts from the low point Kun, the receptive, the earth. The latter starts from the high point Jian, the creative, heaven. This is now from the Chinese. Things are aroused by thunder and lightning. They are fertilized by wind and rain. Sun and moon follow their courses, and it is now hot, now cold. Here we have the sequence of the trigrams in the changing seasons of the year, and in such a way that each is the cause of the one next following. Deep in the womb of the earth, there stirs the creative force Chun, the arousing, symbolized by thunder. As this electrical force appears, there are formed centers of activation that are then discharged in lightning. Excuse me. Lightning is Li, the clinging, flame. Hence thunder is put before lightning. Thunder is, so to speak, the agent evoking the lightning. It is not merely the sounding thunder. Now the movement shifts. Thunder's opposite, Sun, the wind sets in. The wind brings rain, Kan. Then there is a new shift. The trigrams Li and Kan, formerly acting in their secondary forms as lightning and rain, now appear in their primary forms as sun and moon. In their cyclic movement they cause cold and heat. When the sun reaches the zenith, heat sets in, symbolized by the trigram of the southeast, Dui, the joyous, or lake. When the moon is at its zenith in the sky, cold sets in, symbolized by the trigram of the northwest, Kun, the mountain, or keeping still. Hence the sequence is, and then it shows a sequence. The way of the creative brings about the male. The way of the receptive brings about the female. Here at the beginning of sequent change appears, here the beginning of sequent change appears, manifested in the succession of generations, an onward moving process that never returns to its starting point. This shows the extent to which the Book of Changes confines itself to life. For according to Western ideas, sequent change would be the realm in which causality operates mechanically. But the Book of Changes takes sequent change to be the succession of the generations, that is, still something organic. The creative, insofar as it enters as a principle into the phenomenon of life, is embodied in the male. The receptive is embodied in the female. Thus the creative, in the lowest line of each of the suns, and the receptive in the lowest line of each of the daughters is the sex determinant of the given trigram. The creative knows the great beginnings. The receptive completes the finished things. From the Chinese. Here the principles of the creative and receptive are traced further. The creative produces the invisible seeds of all development. At first, these seeds are purely abstract. Therefore, with respect to them, there can be no action nor acting upon. Here it is knowledge that acts creatively. While the creative acts in the world of the invisible, with spirit and time for its field, the receptive acts upon matter and space and brings material things to completion. Here the processes of generation and birth are traced back to their ultimate metaphysical meanings. The creative knows through the easy. The receptive can do things through the simple. From the Chinese. The nature of the creative is movement. Through movement, it unites with ease what is divided. In this way, the creative remains effortless, because it guides infinitesimal movements when things are smallest. Since the direction of movement is determined in the germinal stage of being, everything else develops quite effortlessly of itself, according to the law of its nature. The nature of the receptive is repose. Through repose, the absolutely simple becomes possible in the spatial world. This simplicity, which arises out of pure receptivity, becomes the germ of all spatial diversity. And now we're getting near the end of this section. Here's a longer section from the Chinese. What is easy to know. What is simple is easy to follow. He who is easy to know attains fealty. He who is easy to follow attains works. He who possesses attachment can endure for long. He who possesses works can become great. To endure is the disposition of the sage. Greatness is the field of action of the sage. This passage points out how the easy and the simple take effect in human life. What is easy is readily understood, and from this comes its power of suggestion. He whose ideas are clear and easily understood wins men's adherence because he embodies love. In this way, he becomes free of confusing conflicts and disharmonies. Since the inner movement is in harmony with the environment, it can take effect undisturbed and have long duration. This consistency and duration characterize the disposition of the sage. It is exactly the same in the realm of action. Whatever is simple can easily be imitated. Consequently, others are ready to exert their energy in the same direction. Everyone does gladly what is easy for him because it is simple. The result is that energy is accumulated, and the simple develops quite naturally into the manifold. Thus it grows, and the sage's mission to lead the multitude to the performance of great works is fulfilled. And now the closing section of the Chinese text, followed by one final comment by Wilhelm. By means of the easy and the simple, we grasp the laws of the whole world. When the laws of the whole world are grasped, therein lies perfection. Here we are shown how the fundamental principles demonstrated above are applied in the Book of Changes. The easy and the simple are symbolized by very slight changes in the individual lines. The divided lines become undivided lines as the result of an easy movement that joins their separated ends. the undivided lines become divided ones by means of a simple division in the middle. Thus the laws of all processes of growth under heaven are depicted in these easy and simple changes, and thereby perfection is attained. Hereby the nature of change is defined as change of the smallest parts. This is the fourth meaning of the Chinese word yi, a connotation that has, it is true, only a loose connection with the meaning change. That's the end of Chapter 1 of the Great Commentary. In our next reading, we'll go on to Chapter 2. Thank you for listening. This has been a reading from one of the oldest books in the world, and we'll be back later with more.